Traditionally, the ICL has been reserved for very high corrections for patients who are not good candidates for LASIK, PRK, or SMILE. And that is true, that it's an excellent option for those who can't have corneal-based procedures. But the ICL has been approved for those with myopia more than -3, so -3 to -16. And when would you consider the ICL then for someone who is a -3? You may think that someone between -3 and -6 is in that sweet spot for LASIK, PRK, or SMILE. But there are cases where the EVO ICL would be a better option, even in those low corrections. One such example would be a patient who has dry eye. So if you have a patient who has moderately severe dry eyes, someone who is not responsive to first-line treatments such as artificial tears, punctal plugs, or even prescription drops for a short period of time, someone who requires a lot of effort to treat their dry eyes, that is not a patient who should have LASIK, PRK, or SMILE, even if their correction is -3. That is a patient for which the EVO ICL would be a much better option because we leave the cornea untouched and their dry eye will not be further exacerbated by the ICL. Another patient with low correction that would be a better EVO ICL candidate than a corneal-based procedure would be someone with thin corneas or someone with form-fruste keratoconus. These are patients whose corneas are at risk, and if we were to perform a corneal-based procedure and thin their cornea further to treat their myopic refractive error, they could potentially develop ectasia later in their life.
Yeah, I think those are all really important anatomical considerations, but it's so interesting. As time has gone on, patients seem to really enjoy and like the reversible nature of the procedure. I think this younger generation, sometimes they're commitment phobes, and so they like the ability or the notion that maybe the ICL could be removed later in life. And I'll often tell my patients, imagine we did ICL surgery for you today, and you go about your life and you're seeing great, and 20 years later you come back and you say, I really miss my glasses, I really miss my contact lenses. We can take those ICLs out and then your eyes pretty much go back to how they are now. And so, the reversibility, the non-committal nature of it, the fact that it doesn't permanently reshape the cornea, as you mentioned, with laser vision correction, the UV protection built into it. I think these are all reasons why the ICL has really come into the forefront, and we're considering it, and patients who are low myopes are now even asking for it.
Yeah, it's actually funny that the UV protection is a comment that comes up often by the younger patients. Absolutely, I agree with all the points you made, and more, I think patients come in well-informed about all their different options, and it's not unusual that a patient would come in asking for the EVO ICL over LASIK, even if they are a candidate for LASIK. And we're in a position to really guide the patient to the right decision, and with all the evidence out there for safety and efficacy as well as excellent outcomes long-term, I have no issue presenting both options to a patient with low myopia and really lead their discussion towards what sits well with them and what speaks to them in making that decision for surgery.
I completely agree. The outcomes with low myopia, high myopia, they're the exact same, they're fantastic, and so I have no problem making that recommendation either.